Good morning and welcome to Chapter 4, Section 3, the elasticity of demand. We know that the law of demand is true. We know that when prices go down, the quantity demanded will go up. We know if prices go up, the quantity demanded is going to go down. But will the quantity change a little or a lot? That is, when the price goes down, will people buy a little bit more or a lot more? If prices go up, people will buy less. Will they buy a little bit less or a lot less? Well, the answer to that question refers to what we call the elasticity of demand. Okay? On page 104 in your text, they talk a little bit about it on 103, but on page 104, we talk about demand elasticity. That is, how does the change in price affect the quantity being demanded? Does it have a big impact or a small impact? Okay. On these graphs here on the whiteboard, they're both demand curves because they slope down and to the right, but they illustrate the two different types of elasticity. Okay. The first type of elasticity I want to talk about is inelastic demand. And that's a little bit out of order from the book, but inelastic demand means that when there's a change in price, the quantity demanded changes just a little bit. Which one of these graphs shows you that when the price changes, the quantity changes just a little bit? It would be this one here. This graph shows what we call inelastic demand. Okay? That is, when there's a change in price, even a big change in price, the quantity demanded is not going to change very much. And here I show that the price goes up, so the quantity demanded goes down a little bit, but we could switch the ones and the twos around. The price could go down a little bit and the quantity will go up, but not a lot. The quantity doesn't change very much when the price changes. Now the technical definition is when it changes less than proportional, but we'll come back to that. Okay? What kinds of products have an inelastic demand? Well, probably the easiest example is gasoline. When the price of gasoline goes up, even a lot, how do people respond to this change in price? Well, they do buy less gasoline, but they don't buy a lot less. For example, I need so many gallons of gas each week to get to church, to get to the market, to get to school when I was teaching at school. Let's say that I need 10 gallons of gas. If the price of gas goes way up from, say, $2 a gallon to $5 a gallon, what am I going to do? Well, I'm still going to buy about 10 gallons of gas. I might cut back a little bit, but I'm still going to buy about the same amount. Okay? That product, gasoline in this case, a product like this has an inelastic demand. And it works the other way as well. If the price of gas were to fall way down, right now gas is around $3 a gallon. If it fell all the way to $1 a gallon, what would I do? Sure, I might buy a little bit more gas, but I'm not going to just start driving around the block because gas is cheap. I'm going to use about the same amount of gas. Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, but the price change is not going to impact the quantity very much. Same thing with water at your home. If the price of water goes way up, are you going to stop showering? Are you going to stop flushing the toilet? Are you going to stop washing your clothes and the dishes? You're still going to use about the same amount of water. Now maybe you cut back a little bit, take a little bit shorter shower, you water the lawn a little bit less, but you're not going to change a lot. Products like this have an inelastic demand. Okay? Where changes in price have a smaller impact on the quantity demanded. The opposite of inelastic demand then would be over here. Elastic demand. Products that have an elastic demand, even small changes in price are going to cause a much larger change in the quantity demanded. For example, in this case, the price goes down a little bit, right? From P0 to P1, the price goes down just a little bit, but the quantity goes way up. People respond to this small change in price by buying a lot more. Products like this are said to have an elastic demand. For example, clothing. Clothing has an elastic demand. How many of us like to buy our clothing at full price? No one, right? We like to wait for the clothing to go on sale. So at the original price, not on sale, people will buy a little bit of clothing, but if they put it on sale just for a little bit, maybe 10 or 20% off, that will cause people to want to buy a lot more clothing. Products like this have an elastic demand. Okay? So again, technically the definition is a change in price that has a proportionately larger change in the quantity demanded. And what does that mean, proportionally? Okay? Well, maybe if we look at the last one, unit elastic. With unit elastic, okay, and I didn't put that on the board, but with a unit elastic demand, changes in price cause an exactly proportional change in the quantity. Meaning something like this. If we cut the price in half, we would sell exactly twice as many. If we lower the price by 1/3, we would sell exactly 1/3 more. It's exactly proportional. Okay? For those of you that are math people, the slope would be exactly -1. It would be exactly proportional. Okay? How do we know if the product has an elastic or inelastic demand? Well, one of the ways that we can determine whether the product has an elastic or inelastic demand is there on page 105, called the total receipts or total expenditures test. Okay? And in this case, we're going to look at how does a change in price affect how much money people are willing to spend, what we call their expenditures. So you all need to look at the graphs at the bottom of page 104. Okay? The first graph, letter A, entitled Elastic Demand. Okay? Everybody, we're looking at the graph at the bottom of page 104. If we look at the original price of $3, point A on the graph, okay? At a price of $3, point A, how many are being demanded? Well, the answer is 2, right? If you're looking at that graph, at point A, the price is $3 and 2 are being demanded. So how much money are people expending? How much money are they spending? Well, $3 times 2 items is $6. Okay. Well, what happens if we lower the price? We go from point A to point B. We lower the price from $3 down to $2. Okay. What would you expect people to do at this lower price? Sure, they're going to buy more. So what happens to the quantity? It goes from 2, it goes all the way out to 4. So how much money are people spending? The new price is $2, and they're buying 4 items. 2 times 4 is $8. So what do you notice in graph A? That by lowering the price from $3 down to $2, people actually spend more money. Instead of spending only $6 on the item, now they're spending $8. This is exactly what happens when items go on sale, right? If an item goes on sale, people get excited, they buy more items, they end up spending more money. Okay? Well, now let's take a look at graph B, the one right next to it entitled Inelastic Demand. We're at the same point A. Point A, $3 a piece. Okay, we're selling them for 3, people buy 2, so they're spending $6. Well, what happens when we lower the price now from $3 down to $2? Yes, the quantity goes up, but it only goes up to 2.5 units. And I'm not sure how you buy half a unit unless we're talking about pounds or something like that. But we lower the price from $3 down to $2, and now people buy 2.5. Well, 2.5 units times $2 means they're only spending $5. In graph B, we lowered the price from 3 down to 2, but now people are spending less money. Products like this are said to have an inelastic demand. Okay? Panel C is unit elastic. Okay? We go from $3 down to $2, and in both cases, people are spending the exact same $6. I can't give you an example of a product that has a unit elastic demand. Unit elastic is kind of the dividing line between products that have an elastic demand or products that have an inelastic demand. Again, if to use a math analogy, it's the zero on the number line. Unit elastic is the dividing line between positive numbers and negative numbers, or in this case, products that have an elastic demand or an inelastic demand. Okay. They try to summarize all of this in panel D. Okay. Kind of look at panel D, but also watch my fingers. What happened in panel A, a product that has an elastic demand? They lowered the price of the item, and yet people spent more money. They're moving in opposite directions, right? They lower the price, people spend more money. Okay. What happened in panel B? Again, they lowered the price, but now people spent less money. They're moving in the same direction. If the change in price and the change in expenditures move in the same direction, that means the product has an inelastic demand. And if a change in price causes no change in expenditures, panel C, then it's unit elastic. Okay. Well, what does all this mean in the real world? Changes in price, changes in expenditures, same direction, opposite directions. How would an understanding of elasticity help you if you were a business owner? Okay. Some of you may want to someday own your own business. And if I said to you, how are you going to make more money? How are you going to bring in more revenue for your business? Revenue is just a fancy name for money. How are you going to bring in more money for your business? Are you going to raise or lower the price of your product? Well, it depends. It depends on if you have an elastic or an inelastic product. For example, the demand for caps and gowns is very inelastic. If Jostens charges more, how many caps and gowns are you going to buy? You're still only going to buy one, right? Because that's all you need to graduate with is one cap and gown. If they put the caps and gowns on sale and they charged way less, how many would you buy? Well, you're still only going to buy one. That's all you need. Okay? Caps and gowns have an inelastic demand. So if you're Jostens and you want to make more money, would you raise or lower the price? Well, you would raise the price, because if you raise the price and it has an inelastic demand, people are going to end up spending more money on it. If that cap and gown goes from $20 to $40, what are you going to do? You're going to buy it anyways. And now Jostens is making more money. On the other hand, what if you were selling a product that has an elastic demand? Okay? A lot of food items have elastic demands. Clothing items have elastic demands. So if you're Kohl's, and Kohl's sells a lot of clothing, they also sell a lot of small appliances and housewares and things like that. Almost all of those products have an elastic demand. So what does Kohl's do to make a lot of money? They have a sale. And if you've ever been to Kohl's, they have a sale every single week. In fact, if the item's not on sale this week, wait till next week because it's going to be on sale. Okay? Kohl's knows that they sell elastic products. So in order for them to make more money, they have to lower their price because they're selling products with an elastic demand. You're going to see a question or two like this on the test. The store raises the price of their milk and people spend more money on milk. What kind of a demand does milk have? They raise the price of the milk and people spend more money. They're moving in the same direction. That means it has an inelastic demand. The store lowers the price of their coats and people spend more money on coats. What kind of a demand do coats have? They lower the price of the coats and people spend more money. They're moving in opposite directions. That's elastic. Okay? So this is a very important concept. Okay? An understanding of elasticity will help you determine how you want to price your products. Okay? Well, what makes gasoline have an inelastic demand and clothing have an elastic demand? What determines whether the product has an elastic or inelastic demand? On page 107, yes, on page 107, they have the determinants of demand elasticity. You can ask 3 questions about the product. And if you ask those questions, the answer to those questions will help you to determine whether the product's going to be elastic or inelastic. The first question, can the purchase be delayed? Can you put off buying this product? If the answer to that is no, then it tends to have an inelastic demand. For example, surgeries have a very inelastic demand. If the price of heart surgery were to skyrocket, what would you tell the doctor? You know what, I think I'll wait to have my surgery until they go on sale. Or are you going to get it anyways? Of course, you're going to get it anyways. So even though the price of the heart surgery goes way up, it's really not going to impact the quantity. People are going to buy about the same amount. On the other hand, if you can put off buying it, like your sheets for your bed, okay? People very, very rarely buy their sheets at full price. They wait for what we used to call a white sale, right? Because sheets used to be white, so they would call it a white sale. Okay? Nobody would buy their sheets, hardly anybody would buy sheets at full price. But as soon as they put them on sale, people would buy a lot more. Because you don't have to buy it right now, you can wait. Okay? The second question, are there adequate substitutes available? That is, can you use something else instead? Again, if the answer is no, then it's inelastic. If the answer is no to these questions, it's inelastic. That's why gasoline has an inelastic demand. There are no substitutes for gas. If you have a car that runs on gas, it runs on gas or gas. You can't say, gee, the price of gas is really expensive. I think I'll put some Dr. Pepper in my gas tank. That's not going to work. Gas has no substitutes. That's why the water in your home is inelastic. On the other hand, if it has substitutes, that's why almost all food items have an elastic demand. Because if the price of steak goes up, well, you buy pork chops, you buy chicken, you substitute, because there are substitutes available. And the last question is, does the purchase require a large portion of your income? I remember when I was younger, we used to buy a newspaper from the machine. Okay, you might have seen those, the newspaper racks out in front of the supermarket or 7-Eleven. And we used to pay 25 cents for a newspaper. And I remember when the newspaper went from 25 cents to 50 cents. That's a big price increase. The price doubled from 25 cents to 50 cents. But did that cause people to buy a lot less newspapers? No. Because the person that could afford 1 quarter could afford 2 quarters. You weren't going to say, geez, this is so expensive now, I'm not going to buy it. Okay? They use the example of salt in the book. Okay? I buy one of those canisters of salt. It costs me about $1. It lasts for a year. If the price of salt were to triple, would I all of a sudden say, well, I guess I'm not going to buy any salt anymore. Now that it costs $3 a year, I can't afford it. $1 a year, $3 a year, no big deal. I'm going to buy it. On the other hand, if it's an expensive item like a house, even if it goes up just a little bit in price, people are going to buy a lot less houses because the price has gone up thousands or tens of thousands of dollars. But as a percentage, it's a small amount. Okay? All right, so we've learned the elasticity of demand. Some products have an elastic demand, where changes in price cause a much larger change in the quantity demanded. Other products have an inelastic demand, where even large changes in price are going to cause a much smaller change in the quantity demanded. We still follow the law of demand. The quantity does go up or down, it just doesn't go up or down a lot, or it does go up and down a lot. Okay? All right, so that's the elasticity of demand.